The rain hammered down like God's own judgment, turning the cracked asphalt of Ridge Valley, Texas, into a river of mud and regret. Elias Harlan, 17 and trembling under the porch light, clutched the faded Polaroid of him and his best friend. More than that, really, pressed against his chest like a shield. "You're a goddamn abomination," his father roared, the belt cracking across Eli's back one final time, the sting blooming into fire that would scar deeper than skin. In that moment, as blood mixed with the downpour, Eli knew love wasn't the sin, but surviving it just might be. 15 years later, the scars had faded to silver threads across his shoulders, hidden beneath the crisp button-down of a life rebuilt in Seattle's relentless gray. Eli Harlan, Elias to the world, but Eli to those who mattered, stared at his reflection in the fogged bathroom mirror of their queen and row house, the steam from the shower curling like ghosts around his 32-year-old frame. He was taller now, broader in the shoulders from years of hauling lumber at the community theater sets and running half marathons to outpace the memories. His hazel eyes, once wide with terror, now held the steady glint of a man who'd learned to forgive himself, if not the hands that had broken him. Downstairs, the clatter of breakfast plates pulled him back. Nate's voice, warm as fresh coffee, drifted up the stairs. "Babe, if you don't get down here soon, I'm eating your share of those blueberry pancakes. And you know I make 'em better than that hipster joint on Capitol Hill." Nathan Whitaker, Nate to everyone, but Natty to Eli in the quiet hours, was the anchor Eli hadn't known he needed. 34, with a mop of sandy blonde hair that defied combs and a laugh that could crack open the gloomiest Seattle sky, Nate was a graphic designer by trade, a dreamer by nature. They'd met 6 years ago at a pride rally in California Anderson Park, Eli still raw from therapy sessions that peeled back layers of shame like old wallpaper. Nate had handed him a rainbow flag and said, "Wave it like you mean it, stranger. The world's too short for half-assed revolutions." That flag had led to coffee, then to stolen kisses in the rain-slicked alleys of Pioneer Square, and finally to this, a home with creaky hardwood floors, walls lined with Nate's vibrant posters of forgotten queer icons, and a backyard garden where Eli coaxed tomatoes from the acidic soil as if proving something to the dirt itself. They weren't married, not legally, not yet, but the gold bands they'd exchanged in a backyard ceremony under string lights felt heavier than any state stamp. And then there was Jasper, their 4-year-old rescue mutt, a wiry terrier mix with one floppy ear and a penchant for stealing socks, who slept curled at the foot of their bed like a furry chaperone. Eli dried his face, tracing the faint line of a scar along his jaw, not from that night, but from a bar fight in his early 20s, when booze had been his rebellion of choice. He'd quit drinking 3 years in, after Nate found him slumped in an alley behind a dive bar in Belltown, whispering apologies to shadows. "You're not him," Nate had said then, cupping Eli's bruised face. "You're not your father." Those words had been a lifeline, pulling Eli from the undertow of self-loathing. Now, as he descended the stairs, the scent of maple syrup wrapped around him like forgiveness. "Morning, handsome," Nate greeted, flipping a pancake with theatrical flair. His blue eyes sparkled with that easy mischief that made Eli's chest ache in the best way. Jasper yipped from his bed by the radiator, tail thumping like a metronome. Eli leaned in for a kiss, lingering just long enough to taste the batter on Nate's lips. "You say that every day? Flattery's gonna get you everywhere." "Already has." Nate winked, sliding a plate across the oak table. They ate in comfortable rhythm, discussing the day's banalities. Eli's shift at the theater, where he managed props for an indie production of Angels in America, Nate's deadline for a client's rebrand, the leaky faucet in the guest bath that they'd been ignoring since summer. It was this normalcy that Eli cherished most, the way their lives intertwined without fanfare, 2 threads in a tapestry of quiet defiance. But beneath the domestic hum, a restlessness stirred in Eli. It had started 2 weeks ago, a letter arriving in the mailbox like an unexploded grenade. Plain envelope, postmarked from Ridge Valley. No return address, but the handwriting, blocky, deliberate, was unmistakable. His father's. Eli hadn't opened it. Instead, he'd shoved it into the junk drawer with the takeout menus and spare keys, telling himself it was nothing. Harlan. Yes, father and son sharing the cursed moniker, hadn't reached out in 14 years, not since Eli fled that Texas dawn with a duffel bag and $50 scraped from odd jobs. The last words between them, "Don't come back. You're dead to me." Yet here it was, festering. Eli pushed his fork through a half-eaten pancake, the blueberries bursting like accusations. Nate noticed, of course. He always did. Earth to Eli. What's got you brooding like a character in one of your plays? Nate's tone was light, but his gaze sharpened, reading the tension in Eli's shoulders. Eli forced a smile. Just thinking about the set build today. Tony's got us hauling that massive hospital bed prop. My back's gonna hate me. Nate arched a brow, unconvinced, but let it slide with a squeeze of Eli's hand. Well, if it acts up, I've got that massage oil from the spa kit. The one that smells like eucalyptus and bad decisions. Eli laughed, genuine this time, the sound easing the knot in his gut. They cleared the table together, Jasper underfoot, begging for scraps. As Nate loaded the dishwasher, humming an off-key rendition of some indie folk tune, Eli's phone buzzed on the counter. A text from his sister, Lila. Dad's sick. Cancer. Wants to see you. Please, Eli. For me. The words blurred. Lila, 3 years younger, had been the bridge, the one who'd bandaged his wounds that night, whispering, "It's not you, it's him." While their mother pretended not to hear the sobs from the next room. She'd stayed in Ridge Valley, married a gentle accountant named Brody, popped out 2 kids who called Eli Uncle E via video calls. Eli loved her fiercely, but the chasm between him and their father was a grand canyon of unspoken grief. He typed back, "I need time. Love you," then pocketed the phone before Nate could see. Work that day blurred into a haze of sawdust and stage lights. The theater, a converted warehouse in Fremont, smelled of fresh paint and possibility. Eli directed the crew, young actors with dreams as big as their tattoos, positioning the prop bed under the harsh fluorescence. "Angle it toward the window," he called, wiping sweat from his brow. "Let the light hit it like regretted dawn." His assistant, a wiry 20-something named Finn with neon green hair and a nose ring, grinned. "Deep man. You writing this or building it?" "Both," Eli muttered, hammering a loose nail. Finn didn't pry. The theater crowd knew better. They were a family of misfits, bound by late-night rehearsals and shared cigarettes, where queerness wasn't a plot point but the baseline. By evening, as the sun dipped behind the Olympics in a bruise of purple, Eli drove home along I-5, the radio murmuring NPR stories of small-town scandals and coastal resilience. Seattle's skyline loomed, all glass and grit, a far cry from the flat, unforgiving plains of Texas. He'd chosen this city for its layers, the fog that had secrets, the ferries that carried you away. But tonight, the letter clawed at him, Harlan's words unread but imagined. "Come home, son. Forgive." Home. The word tasted like ash. Nate was in the living room when Eli walked in, cross-legged on the rug with his sketchpad, Jasper's head in his lap. "Hey, stranger. Tie for dinner? I ordered extra spring rolls." Eli dropped his keys on the sideboard, the clink echoing too loud. "Sounds perfect." He sank onto the couch, pulling Nate's feet into his lap, thumbs tracing the arch in absent rhythm. The sketch was half-formed, a silhouette of 2 men against a starry sky, hands intertwined. "You're creating again," Eli said softly. Nate's art was his therapy, bursts of color against the world's monochrome. Nate set the pad aside, shifting to face him. "Inspired by you. Always am." His kiss was slow, unhurried, the kind that reminded Eli why he'd fought so hard to deserve this. But as Nate's fingers threaded through his hair, Eli's mind fractured. Flashing to that porch, the belt's whistle, his father's face twisted in disgust after finding the Polaroid in Eli's drawer. "Faggot," the word spat like venom, followed by fists that knew no mercy. He pulled back, breath shallow. "I got a letter today." Nate's expression shifted, concern etching lines around his eyes. "From who?" "My dad." The admission hung heavy, the air thickening. Eli hadn't spoken Harlan's name aloud in months, not even in therapy. Nate waited, patient as tide pools. When Eli didn't continue, he prompted gently, "You gonna open it?" Eli shook his head. Lila texted, "He's dying. Wants to make amends, I guess." The words landed like stones in still water. Nate drew him close, chin resting on Eli's crown. "And you? What do you want?" "I don't know." Eli's voice cracked, the boy from Ridge Valley surfacing in the tremor. "Part of me wants to let him rot in whatever hell he's made. The other part, God, Natty, I just want to hear him say he's sorry. Once. For real." Nate held him tighter, the takeout forgotten on the coffee table. Outside, Rain pattered against the window, a Seattle lullaby. That night, they made love slowly, bodies mapping familiar territories, but Eli's mind wandered to what ifs. What if he'd stayed? What if Harlan had chosen love over legacy? As sleep claimed him, wrapped in Nate's arms, Eli dreamed of Texas dust, the horizon unbroken, and a father's hand extended, not in anger, but absolution. But dreams, like peace, are fragile things. The days blurred into a tentative routine, the letter a silent sentinel in the drawer. Eli threw himself into the theater production, the role of Prior Walter in Angels mirroring his own hauntings too closely. Rehearsals ran late, actors spilling guts under the lights, confessions of lost loves and family rifts. How do you forgive the unforgivable? The lead actor, a lanky kid named Miles, asked one night over post-show beers at a dive in Ballard. Eli nursed his soda, the fizz biting his tongue. You don't. You just coexist with it, like a scar that itches on rainy days. Miles nodded, wise beyond his 25 years. Sounds like surviving, not living. Maybe that's the point. Eli clinked glasses, but the words lodged in his throat. Was this living? The theater, Nate's laughter echoing from the kitchen, Jasper's sloppy kisses. Yes, but incomplete. The pull of Ridge Valley grew, a magnetic ache. Lila called midweek, her voice tinny through the speakerphone as Eli paced the backyard, phone wedged between ear and shoulder while pruning basil. He's asking for you every day, Eli? The cancer's in his lungs, smoker's revenge, he says with that damn wry grin. Mom's a wreck, but she won't admit it. The girls want to see their uncle. Eli's nieces, Harper and Sloan, 6 and 3, with Lila's curls and Brody's dimples. He'd sent them rainbow books for birthdays, whispered stories of brave knights who loved knights. Tell them Uncle E's got a big show coming up. Maybe video calls soon. Eli. Lila's sigh carried the weight of shared blood. He's changed. Church group, AA meetings. Even marched in that small pride thing last year. Awkward as hell, but he showed. The image cracked something in Eli. Harlan, broad-shouldered and weathered, clutching a sign in the Texas heat. I can't promise anything, Lil, but I'll think about it. After hanging up, he sat on the damp grass, Jasper nosing his hand. The garden was his sanctuary, rows of herbs whispering resilience. He'd planted it the year Nate proposed with those rings, a vow to root here. But roots could tangle, pull you under. Nate found him there at dusk, 2 mugs of chamomile steaming in hand. Rough call. Eli accepted the tea, the warmth seeping into palms calloused from stage work. She's pushing, gently but still. And you? Nate settled beside him, shoulder to shoulder, the contact grounding. I'm scared. The confession slipped out, raw as an open wound. What if I go, and he looks at me like before? Like I'm still that kid he broke. Nate turned, cupping Eli's face, thumbs brushing stubble. Then you walk away stronger. You've done it before. But what if he doesn't? What if this is the rewrite you deserve? Their eyes locked, Nate's blue depths reflecting Eli's turmoil like a calm sea hiding currents. In that gaze, Eli saw their story. The rally, the first date at Pike Place where Nate stole a kiss amid fishmongers' shouts. The night Eli confessed his past over wine on Alki Beach, waves lapping like confessions. Nate hadn't flinched. Scars make the man, he'd said. And you're the finest one I know. They kissed then, tea forgotten, the garden enveloping them in earthy promise. Later, inside, as rain lashed the windows, Eli retrieved the letter. His hands shook as he slit the envelope, Nate's presence a silent bulwark at his side. The pages were few, ink smudged in places, tears or tremors. Harlan's words scrawled in that familiar hand. Elias, I've got no right to this paper, no claim on your time. But a man stares down his end and sees the wreckage he's left. That night, God, son, I was the monster. Fear, small-town poison, my own failures as a father, they twisted me. I beat you for being true when I should have protected you for it. I lost you that rain, and every day since has been paying the price. I'm sorry. Not the preacher's sorry, but bone deep. Come if you can forgive. If not, know I love you. Always did, even when I couldn't say it. Dad. Eli's vision swam, the words blurring into the boy he'd been, curled on that porch, ribs aching, heart shattered. A sob escaped, guttural, and Nate pulled him close, rocking gently. It's okay to feel it all, Nate murmured. The anger, the ache. Let it out. They cried together, not just for Harlan, but for the years stolen, the love withheld. By midnight, Decision crystallized. Eli would go. Not for absolution. Maybe that was impossible, but for the man he'd become, the one who could face the past without shattering. Packing was ritual. Jeans worn soft from Texas summers, the Polaroid now framed on their mantle, a flannel Nate insisted on. For luck, babe. The flight to Austin was booked for Friday, a red eye that left Eli staring at cloud-shrouded peaks, heart pounding like stage fright. Nate drove him to Seattle-Tacoma, the wipers slashing rain from the windshield. At departures, they lingered in the no-parking zone, hazard lights flashing like warnings. Call me when you land, Nate said, voice thick. And remember, you're not going back. You're closing the circle. Eli nodded, throat tight, pulling Nate into a fierce embrace. Their kiss tasted of salt and goodbye, the kind that promised return. As he walked through security, glancing back, Nate stood tall, waving with that crooked smile, beacon in the storm. Texas hit like a fever dream, the dry heat sucking moisture from skin, the horizon flat and endless. Lila met him at the airport in a battered Ford pickup, her hug bone-crushing, tears streaking mascara. You look good, big brother. Seattle suits you. Ridge Valley suits you, he countered, climbing in. The drive wound through scrubland, billboards for megachurches, and steakhouses flashing by. Their family home loomed unchanged, a squat rancher with peeling siding, the porch where it happened now sagging under wisteria vines. Inside, the air smelled of liniment and fried okra. Mom's doing, her hands floured from biscuits. Margaret Harlan, 60 and wiry, enveloped him in lavender and apology. Elias, my boy. No mention of the years, the silence, just the press of her palms, calloused from quilting circles. Harlan waited in the living room recliner, oxygen tank hissing softly, a shadow of the giant Eli remembered. Cheeks hollowed, eyes sunken but sharp, those same hazel eyes mirrored. Son, he rasped, voice gravel from cigarettes and regret. Eli froze in the doorway, the room shrinking. Flashback, the belt, the blood, abomination. But this man extended a hand, veined and trembling, not to strike, but to bridge. Dad, the word croaked out, foreign. Eli crossed the room, clasping the hand, warm, alive. They sat like that, silent, the tick of the mantel clock marking fragile peace. Dinner was strained normalcy. Lila's girls chattering about school plays, Brody cracking dad jokes over pot roast. Eli answered questions about Seattle, the rain, the ferries, with half smiles, his gaze drifting to Harlan, who picked at his plate, stealing glances. Later, on the porch, rebuilt now, boards solid underfoot, father and son talked. Harlan lit a cigarette, defying doctor's orders, the flame illuminating canyons in his face. I joined that group after you left. Ex-gays, they called it. Tried to pray the sin away. Wasted years. Eli leaned on the rail, arms crossed against the chill. And now I know it's not sin. It's you, my boy, loving who he loves. Harlan's cough rattled, but he pressed on. I saw the rally on the news last year. Thought of you, waving that flag like Natty said you do. Eli startled. You talked to Nate? A nod, sheepish. Called him last month. Wanted his take. Fair warning, you know. He's a good one, Eli. Protective. Like I should have been. The admission stung sweet, a balm on old wounds. They talked till stars pricked the sky. Harlan's AA stories, Eli's theater triumphs, the Polaroid that had started it all. Now Harlan's regret, not rage. I kept a copy, he admitted. In my wallet. Reminder. By week's end, the visit stretched. Eli canceling his return flight, helping with chores, reading to the girls. Lila beamed, mom's quilts draped over them during movie nights. Peace, fragile as spun glass, settled. Harlan grew stronger in spirit, sharing laughs over checkers, his hand on Eli's shoulder without flinching. Nate's calls were lifelines. Miss you, but damn, you sound lighter. Eli agreed, snapping photos of sunsets over the plains, sending them with captions like healing in the dust. But lies, like weeds, thrive in fertile soil. It unraveled on a Tuesday, Eli in the kitchen brewing coffee, Harlan shuffling in for his morning meds. The old man's wallet slipped from his pocket onto the counter, spilling contents, faded receipts, a prayer card, and the Polaroid, creased but cherished. Eli smiled, reaching for it. Still got that, huh? Harlan's face paled, snatching it back too quick. Yeah, just old stuff. Suspicion flickered, but Eli brushed it off. That afternoon, while Harlan napped, Eli borrowed Brody's truck for a supply run to the hardware store in town. Ridge Valley hadn't changed. The same diner with greasy spoons, the Baptist church steeple piercing the blue, whispers following him like shadows. That's Harlan's boy, the one who. At the store, loading nails and paint, his phone buzzed. "Nate, call me ASAP. Important." Heart lurching, Eli dialed from the parking lot, engine idling. "What's wrong?" Nate's voice was strained, background noise of Seattle traffic. "Lila emailed me. Said your dad's improving, might not need that talk after all. But Eli, she mentioned something off. About the rally." Eli frowned. "What about it?" A pause, heavy. "She said Harlan didn't just see it on the news. He was there because of you. But get this, he brought someone. A guy. Said it was to prove something." Confusion knotted Eli's gut. "Prove what?" Nate hesitated. "A lie. I didn't want to say over phone, but when he called me last month, he asked about your ex. The one from Austin, before we met. Remember Caleb?" Caleb. The name conjured ghosts. A brief, fiery romance in Eli's mid-20s ended when Caleb's closeted fears won out. They parted messy, no contact since. Why the hell would he? Because, Nate cut in, voice dropping, Harlan admitted he hired a PI. To check on you. Make sure you were safe. Found out about Caleb, used it to. I don't know, justify reaching out? But he lied to you, babe. About the rally, about changing on his own. It was all to reel you in. The world tilted, truck cab spinning. Eli gripped the wheel, knuckles white. "He what?" "I'm sorry." Lila forwarded the email chain by accident, meant for Brody. "Harlan's been playing you. The AA, the Pride March, it was staged. He even paid that guy to pose as a support buddy." Betrayal crashed like thunder, the fragile piece shattering. Eli's vision tunneled, breath ragged. "I came here for nothing. For a goddamn act." "Eli, wait." But he hung up, tires screeching as he peeled out, dust clouding his rear view. The drive home blurred through tears, Harlan's words echoing hollow. "I love you." Lies. All of it. Bursting through the door, Eli found Harlan in the living room, oxygen mask fogging his labored breaths. Mom and Lila hovered, concern etching their faces. "Dad." Eli's voice was steel, the Polaroid thrust forward like evidence. "You hired a PI? Staged the whole thing." Harlan's eyes widened, mask muffling his gasp. He pulled it off, wheezing. "Eli, listen. No, you don't get to spin this." Rage boiled, years of buried pain erupting. 15 years I carried that beating, that word, abomination, like a brand. I came back to give you grace, and you manipulated me? For what? To die with clean hands. Lila stepped forward, hand on Eli's arm. "Eli, please. He's sick." It was fear. Fear. Eli whirled, shrugging her off. "That's what he always said. Fear made him beat me. Fear kept him silent. And now? Fear of hell. So he buys redemption with lies." His voice broke, chest heaving. "I was starting to believe you. Starting to heal." Harlan struggled to stand, tank hissing protest. "Son, I was wrong. Again. But the love. That wasn't lie. I saw you with Nate on those photos Lila showed. Proud. That's what broke me. Knowing I almost stole that." Eli laughed, bitter, tears carving tracks down his cheeks. "Proud? You spied on my life like it was a threat. Called my husband to probe my past. That's not love, Dad. That's control." The room fell silent, save Harlan's coughs rattling like accusations. Mom wept quietly, Lila frozen. Jasper's ghost nuzzled Eli's mind. Loyal, uncomplicated love. "I can't," Eli whispered, backing toward the door. "Not this time." Harlan collapsed into the chair, face ashen. "Don't go. Not like this." But Eli was already gone, duffel slung over shoulder, truck keys jangling. The plane swallowed him, Austin's lights a distant promise. At the airport, he booked the next flight, numb fingers tapping Nate's number. "Babe." Nate's voice, laced with worry. "I'm coming home." Eli's whisper cracked. But it's all broken again. The flight was torment. Recycled air thick with regret. Neighbors' snores mocking his solitude. Eli stared at the in-flight magazine, glossy ads of happy families blurring into indictments. Harlan's face haunted him, not the monster of youth, but the frail man wheezing apologies. Was it all lie? Or layers of truth, rotten at the core? Nate met him at Seattle-Tacoma, rain sheeting the windows, arms open wide. No words at first, just the crush of embrace, Nate's coat damp against Eli's cheek. "I've got you," Nate murmured, guiding him to the car. Jasper's excited barks from the back seat pierced the fog, tail a blur of welcome. Home was sanctuary, the row house glowing against the night, porch light a beacon. They collapsed on the couch, Jasper wedged between, as Eli spilled it all. The PI, the staged rally, the Polaroid's cruel irony. Nate listened, hand stroking Eli's hair, anger flashing in his eyes, but voice steady. He doesn't deserve you. None of it. But I wanted him to, Eli admitted, voice muffled against Nate's shirt. Wanted the father I deserved. Not this. Fraud. Nate tilted his chin up, eyes fierce with love. You deserved better from the start. And you built it anyway. Us. This. He gestured to the room. The sketches, the garden view, the rings glinting on their fingers. They made love that night, urgent and tender, reclaiming bodies from betrayal's chill. Nate's touches mapped scars, whispering affirmations. Strong. Beautiful. Mine. Eli surrendered, waves of release washing away Texas dust. Morning brought clarity, gray light filtering through curtains. Over coffee, Eli drafted the email to Lila. I can't stay away forever, but trust is earned, not owed. Tell him I'm done chasing ghosts. Love to the girls. To you. He hit send, the whoosh final as a door slam. Nate watched, pride softening his gaze. What now? Eli sipped, steam curling. Theater opens next week. Angels, fitting, right? Pryor fights for connection, even when it hurts. And wins, Nate added. In his way. They walked Jasper that afternoon, boots splashing puddles along Queen and Avenue. Seattle unfolded. Coffee carts steaming, joggers in neon, the Space Needle piercing clouds like defiance. Eli breathed deep, the salt-laced air a reminder. Home wasn't blood, but chosen heartbeats. Weeks passed in rhythm, rehearsals crescendoing to opening night, Eli's hands steady on the lights, voice booming Pryor's monologues. We will be citizens. More than that, we will be human beings. The applause thundered, cathartic, castmates crushing him in hugs. Nate waited in the lobby, bouquet of wildflowers in hand. Daisies and lavender, Eli's favorites. You slayed, babe. Backstage, Finn clapped his shoulder. That was you up there, man. All of it. Eli nodded, throat tight. Yeah, finally. But peace, true peace, arrived unannounced a month later. Another letter, this one from Lila. Harlan's will, notarized, leaving the ranch to her, but a codicil for Eli. A small inheritance, enough for a down payment, and a note in Harlan's hand. Use it to build what I couldn't. No strings. Forgive if you can. If not, live free. Love, Dad. Eli read it aloud to Nate by the garden, sun warming soil. Tears fell, but not from pain, from release. He got one thing right, Eli said, folding the paper. Live free. Nate pulled him close, Jasper circling their feet. You already do. In the quiet that followed, Eli planted new seeds, sunflowers, tall and turning toward light. Scars itched less now, stories woven into strength. Betrayal had cracked the facade, but from the ruins grew truth. Love wasn't fragile, but fierce, chosen, fought for, enduring. And in Seattle's endless rain, they thrived.